Hello, everyone. New episode in the Design Lounge. I'm your host, Brandon Gaston, and I am with the amazing, incredible, fashionable interior designer, TV personality extraordinaire. I can go on and on and on and on. Karin Bohn, everyone. How are you doing?
I am doing so good. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm just so excited to have a conversation with you and speak to your audience.
Yeah, I know they're going to be super excited to have you on. I mean, this is the Icon series, and there's no better way to start it off than with you. I know we were able to meet a couple years ago in Vancouver and had a conversation, and yeah, we were like, okay, we got to do this again. We got to run it back and do it officially on in the Design Lounge for the podcast. So, for those that don't know who you are, let them know who you are and everything that you do.
Okay, well, Karin Bohn, I have founded the interior design studio House of Bohn, which is based in Vancouver. I founded the company in 2009, so I've been in business now for 16 years, which is wild. And we do
What? So wait, how old
projects.
were you? Were you like 15 or so
I
when you
was in my
started? Were you
20s.
were you
Yeah,
were you
I
like
was in my
were you started
20s.
in this? You were so
Yeah,
you're
I
oh
was so young, and I
yeah.
do not recommend doing it the way that I did it. But you know what? It's been a wild ride over the last 16 years. I've had the opportunity to host a Netflix show. So I was the design
Yes.
host of Restaurants on the Edge, which ran for 2 seasons. And I am the mother to a beautiful baby girl. She's 2 years old. Well, I guess she's not a baby anymore. She's 2 years old. Her name's
Yeah.
Madison, and she's my entire world. I love her.
Love it, love it. We're gonna dig into all of that. I think I met Madison. I think, like I said, we talked before to give context. I think she was a newborn, literally a newborn. That conversation before a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So
Not
I
even
mentioned
walking or anything like that.
right. No,
Not
no,
crawling, not walking. And
no.
my husband came to see the talk and
Mhm.
he brought her, and then he pulled her out of the stroller at the end of the talk. I got to go snuggle her, and she was just a floppy little baby.
It was so cool, so cool. I know. It's funny. I recognize him, of course, from the YouTube channel. I'm gonna get into that in a second. But Icon, we have you
Yes.
in the Icon series. We're placing you in that stratosphere, that level. What does it mean to be an icon to you, and how? What have you done to set you up to do these icon things that you're now doing and have done?
My God, what a great question. Okay, I think what is iconic is knowing and claiming and owning your superpower. So I
Mm.
definitely think being an icon is something that actually comes deeply from within. And I think when you can own your superpower and go in that direction, just exude that, live by that, allow that, be dare to be brave in and stand in your own. That is iconic, and I think that's when the magic really happens.
I know you've been, again, you said 2009, it's been 16 plus years, and I am in total agreement with you. It's definitely inward. What are some of the things that propelled you to that status, right? Because I'm sure you have these milestones, whether it be projects, whether it be realization as an entrepreneur, whether it be becoming a mother. But what are some of those things, if you were to timestamp some major moments in your iconic career thus far, that really changed the trajectory of what you're doing?
Yeah. Okay, well, there's two, probably three big ones. I mean, obviously, the Netflix show, which we can get into in a little bit. I mean, that launched in 2020. That had been something that I'd been working at for a really, really long time. But before that, I think it was about, I want to say maybe year five in my business. So over 10 years ago, I picked up a camera and started posting on YouTube. And
Yes.
this was a massive game changer in my business. I actually had no idea that it would do what it did for my business. And really, where that came from was I just wanted to have a real and authentic conversation about what it was like to be building a company, what it was like to be a woman in business, the trials, the tribulations, the difficulties. I mean, I would go to networking events, and I couldn't believe that people would always talk about how great everything was, how great their business
Right?
was. Like, everyone's so busy, they're growing, bigger team, bigger than what's going on here? Like,
What?
I just was totally fine with being very real and candid on camera. And that started to grow an audience, and I had a lot of fun with it. I eventually hired someone in-house, and I think I was sharing this with you at one point, but I remember going to events and I had this camera person in tow, and I would be like mic'd up, and this was way before anybody was doing this in Vancouver. And
Yeah.
people have said to me, who are I'm now friends with, but they have said to me, like, I walked by them in my fur jacket and this camera person behind me, and they were like,
Who are you?
who does she think she is? She is so
Totally.
full of herself. And so it was funny. Like, it was, but I was totally fine with just putting it all out there. And as weird maybe as it was at the time, because it's not weird now,
No, totally.
but as weird as it was at the time, I was just going with it, and I think it really drew a lot of people in, and that was something that definitely set me apart in the industry for sure.
Totally. And you know, I definitely want to touch on that because again, I was one of those people that watch your channel. I've mentioned this to you before. So I was growing, I was doing image consulting, styling, and I was trying to move over to the media side. And someone, I don't know how they came across you. Obviously, they were already fan from the States. They're like, there's this woman, Karin Bohn. She has this YouTube channel, and I really think you would resonate with it. And I watched, and I'm like, okay, well, this is interior design, and I love design. I appreciate design coming from fashion. I'm like, but what got me most about that was the business aspect. Was you
Mm.
talking about the trials and tribulations, the projects, but not just the glitz and glam, but the aspects in between it. You said it provided you context. It provided the audience, I guess, if you will, context.
Yeah.
Did it? How did it impact your business? I know it impacted your business as far as awareness, but how did it impact your business as far as context and almost like almost like elevate your brand because they were able to
Yeah.
see, hey, she's actually going through all these processes. This is what she does. This is the level of commitment and quality that she adheres to. So how did
Mm-hmm.
it elevate your brand, your company in that way?
Yeah, great question. And also, I just want to say that I really love that you had seen some of those older videos and had tuned in at one time. It
Totally.
gives me like the warm and fuzzies because genuinely at the time, it was like I was just trying it, throwing
Hmm.
paint, throwing whatever against the wall and seeing
See
what,
what
what
sticks.
sticks. And it was awkward a lot of the times because I didn't have a precedent necessarily in Vancouver, and there wasn't even a precedent. There wasn't even really like a female entrepreneur who was running their company, you know, doing like being fashionable and stylish, but candid about the way that they were running their company on YouTube at the time. So
Yeah.
I was just trying this, and the way that it gave people context and really set the brand apart was like oh my gosh, the list is so long. I can't even believe that today. So I did this video. Okay, let me tell you the story.
Okay.
We would post regularly a YouTube video every Monday morning at 6 a.m. So you could tune
Okay.
in to basically a vlog, and I was always talking about entrepreneurship and showing interior design. And like it's a lot of outward energy, and for someone who's extra or introverted,
Are you?
I am. I'm actually very, very introverted.
Have I told you that
Yeah. Are you? Yeah,
I am?
yeah. You're.
So
I.
me and not so me by nature, I'm not really outgoing or I can pretend, right? Like so in settings that I'm comfortable, like family and friends, super gregarious, super outgoing, can be the life of the room, but in a public setting, a public domain, I
Mhm.
can be on the wall and be fine. Now,
Yeah.
I've learned to when the mic is on and the video's in my face to just I'm in that space. But
Totally.
by natural inclination is not to be that person.
Totally. Me too. I am
Okay.
so with you.
Yeah.
We're cut from the same cloth.
Literally, literally.
Yeah, yeah. And so I remember I was kind of it would be tiring sometimes, right? Because in order to create and post a video once a week, I was also filming usually a couple times during the week. And we would film on the fly. It's not like I had a content schedule. We would just decide, you know what, this would be a great meeting or this would be great to talk about. And then we would cut it up, edit it and get it ready for Monday morning. So one day I was like, no, we're not filming tomorrow. Don't want to do it. I'm not in the mood. I woke up that morning and I was like, you know what? I've got a big client meeting. I know my audience would love to see this. And so I call up my videographer and I'm like, it's on, get the camera ready.
Yeah.
And so we go to this client meeting. And at the time, it was also like now people expect that I would film at a client meeting or a site visit or something like that. At the time, people are a little weirded out about it. Like, wait, you're going
Totally.
to film? Okay, sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you
Yeah.
can film in our office. So I filmed this client meeting, and I think I called the video a real life design presentation or something like that, a real design presentation. And that video has had hundreds of thousands of views. I think I've been told that in the communications class of BCIT, that's one of our, that's the technical, like, interior design school here in
Okay.
Vancouver, they
Yeah.
actually show that video to students to show them how you present to a client. I was like, say what? I should be getting some royalties for
Right.
this, I
Exactly.
think.
Yeah.
Hold up a
Something.
second. Hold up a
Something.
second. But like that's just one example about how the YouTube channel has just the reach that it's had. And so there's been so many students who have learned about me, about House of Bohn through that YouTube channel. I mean, in terms of clients, there's been clients who have come to us, of course, from the YouTube channel who have followed the story or followed the journey, and they knew the next time that they built a house or renovated that they wanted to have me come and do it. And I will say that that was has been one of the incredible things about social media too. When you show up in your superpower and you are
Totally.
candid and authentic and honest, you create an immediate connection with people, and the sales process becomes so much easier because they're already bought in.
And you know what? I'm so happy you said that. I had a conversation on a previous episode with Matthew McCormick.
Mm.
And I know who you're friends with. I think you've interviewed him previously in another
Yeah,
podcast scenario.
super
And so we were
talented.
talking, super talented, amazing lighting. And he was saying, when he started out brand new, he would document the process. And what that provided, it changes the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like what people don't realize with social media, not only are you providing context and they're seeing you as a person, but
Mm-hmm.
you also not only are building credibility with your tribe, if you will, but you're also eliminating people that you don't want to work with. And so
Absolutely.
the people
Yes.
that come into your environment, they're already qualified. They're already like bought in. It's just you just don't need to mess it up. Like they
Yeah.
already decided, hey, I know how she works. I know the quality level she provides. I like her process. I like her design,
Mm-hmm.
aesthetic. It's now if I afford her, if I can, let me go with her. And
Yeah.
there is no A or B or comparisons. It's like this is the person I want to work with. So it eliminates a lot of that back and forth.
Totally. And I think with on that note too, because you're able to build the brand exactly the way that you want to and what's true and authentic to you, I actually believe that there's so much that you can do on social media that's really great for your own personal, like your business, if you have a company, or your own personal business, if you're a freelancer or an independent brand. And sometimes I think in ways even more than having like a TV show, because when you have a big show, you don't have that kind of control. Like I didn't have 100% control over my wardrobe. I did
Yeah.
not have 100% control over
How
my
was
schedule.
that? How was that
Weird.
having control of your wardrobe? Because for me,
Weird.
being a stylist, I will say, even like past dating relationships, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I will provide you a list of items that I like, and you can choose from this list. But do not try to dress me because
Totally.
I don't need that kind of chaos. So
Yes.
that would be the hardest thing for my
My
clothes.
gosh, that was the hardest thing. And here I was too. Like, I love fashion and I love expressing myself in a certain way. And also, House of Bonn is known for more of a luxury aesthetic. And so
Absolutely, absolutely.
when they wanted me to be the girl next door and really, a different kind
Tone
of
it
wardrobe,
down.
tone it down, and more like t-shirts and collared shirts and stuff that I would like never ever wear in my regular daily life. It is strange because then, sometimes the way you dress is also kind of a superpower, right? Like you're
Without question.
expressing yourself, showing up in something that you wouldn't normally wear. That's weird.
I tell people all the time is I did image consulting, which is again styling image consulting across the board. I did fashion shows. And I was saying, what I'm doing, I'm setting you up for success, right? Externally to everyone else that comes into contact with you, because it is a language, it is a conversation starter, but also more importantly, internally how you feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as much as I dress for everyone else, I dress for myself first and foremost.
Yes.
So to your point, if I'm dressing in a way where I don't feel my best, that actually makes me not feel my best, which
Mm-hmm.
then affects my performance. I want to dig into more about that with you working on the television show, but also I feel like I don't want to overlook the intention behind the vlog and the YouTube and trying to get on TV. So talk
Mm-hmm.
about that journey because everyone thinks, oh, Bohn, she's just amazing. YouTube, interior designer,
Yeah.
influencer. TV
Netflix
just fell
called.
into her lap. Netflix just
Yes.
like, just come on, you're amazing. And I
Totally.
know your intention was to be on TV, but it wasn't just like that. Explain the process for those that don't know the story.
Yeah, my intention was definitely to land a TV show. And it's funny, like I would tell everybody that I was going to do TV even when I didn't have a show secured. And I almost got
Okay.
to the point where I was like, I need to stop saying this because what if it never happens? But hey, I manifested it. So when I started my company, like as long as I've had my company, I had wanted to do a TV show. And I think that stemmed partly from because of the time that when I was in design school, I actually got an opportunity to do a reality TV stint on HGTV
Okay.
for a show called Design Intern. So
Can we find that somewhere? Is that
I
available
think
floating
it's
around?
Googleable. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so I had the taste of television and I really, really loved it. And I knew that I wanted to do more. And I just knew that I could be a great host in the design
Absolutely.
space. So after I started my company, this was something that I really went after. And when I say went after, I mean, I would Google production studios in Vancouver, find producers. I would call them up, tell them, "Hey, I'm Karin Bohn. I'm an interior designer. This is what I'm doing. Do you want to meet for coffee?" And some of them did, which was great. And I would be collecting advice along the way. It kind of got to the point where, because I was starting my YouTube channel as well, I started making videos. I started sending those out to producers. And then I ended up, I think even one time, flying myself to Toronto to pitch myself.
Okay.
And all along the way, just collecting amazing feedback and data from different producers. And
Did that
I,
impact your YouTube channel as you're collecting this data?
um,
Did it pivot at all, or did not so
it
much? You
didn't
already had
pivot at
the
all.
vision.
But the great thing about what I was doing on YouTube is I love that saying, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so I
Totally.
really feel like it was that way for me with the Netflix show because I had all of this practice doing the YouTube channel, and so I could see like what looked good. I could see how my posture needed to be. I could see how I needed to take out the ums and the likes of what I was saying. What highlighter how my makeup looked great. And
Well, you thought
so
that was going to work, but that ended up changing.
exactly.
You knew,
But
but
I
did they
knew.
know? You
Didn't they?
knew.
No, exactly. And so it was just like practice, right? Every video you got better and better at just speaking on camera. And I spent 5 years under 6 contracts with different production companies before I got the call to do the Netflix show. And
Wow.
it was a long, and every time I would sign on with a new studio, I'd be like, this is it. This is the one, right? Because it just seemed like the studios would get bigger and more well known. But yeah, and then I was so burnt out with it after the 5 years that I thought, what, I'm just going to focus on my YouTube channel. And then what do you know, I get a call from Beverly Hills, and I was like, it's probably a producer. And I remember that call, and she was like, we've got a brand new show. We're looking for a design host. We already have the chef. We have the restaurateur. It's a travel show. It's about revamping restaurants. You fly around the world. It's for Netflix. Are you in? And I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'm in.
Right.
Yeah. But it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of practice. It was a lot of putting myself out there. It was a lot of rejection, Like, I think even one producer said to me at once, they were like, I don't know, you're just a little too normal for TV. Because at the time it was all about big personalities and
Yeah.
like contractors doing crazy things or realtors doing crazy things, right? And so it was just funny to get all the different feedback and to see like what really worked for TV. But then eventually a great opportunity happened, and it just happened to be Netflix. So it was pretty cool.
It just happened to be
It
Netflix.
just happened to be
It just
Netflix.
happened to be
No big
Netflix.
deal.
No big deal. So, I mean, that's amazing. I imagine getting that call finally, that's always how it works out. But then Restaurants on the Edge, I believe it was 2 seasons. Talk
Mhm.
about that. Talk about, you kind of hinted earlier. It's different being on TV because you are no longer in total control of your brand.
Yes.
So you lose some of that, but obviously you have the machine that is Netflix. So what are some things that you like kind of
Yes.
took from it, but also some ways you were surprised by
Yes.
how it is being on that machine that is Netflix and TV.
Totally. Okay, so one of the things that really surprised me, and I kind of knew this from doing the reality TV show, but TV's slow. Like, it's
Okay.
super, super slow. And even though you see like the fast cuts and the this and that, and you're in one country one day and another country another day, I mean, while you're in it, you're really, really slow. And sometimes I would be on set and it wouldn't be my camera call time. And I'd be like in Hong Kong without a green room and no freaking internet access, like sitting there kicking
Right.
rocks. Like, meanwhile, I have a whole company to run and 12 more than, I think we were running over 20 projects at that time. Like, it
Wow.
was crazy.
Okay.
So that
And
was
in a different time zone and
different time zone, yeah. So that was crazy, just not having full control over my schedule and just the pace of TV. I also, what was very cool, a very cool takeaway was it was nice to be part of a bigger production where, in essence, I had, a boss, a producer, and I had people that I had to answer to, and I wasn't the one that was calling the shots on the show,
right.
right? Like I am at my company. And so sometimes when you are a boss and you're a leader, you forget what it's like to be part of a team. And so
Yeah.
I think there was a big learning there on how I know I want to treat my people and also how I know I do not ever want to treat my people.
Totally. Right. You learn that because there was the benefit I would imagine of the reprieve where okay I don't have to worry about everything. I don't have to oversee everything. I don't have to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And yet then from being an entrepreneur so long, I talk to people about this all the time. It can become incredibly lonely. Just from the fact is you don't have even if you have a large team, at the end of the day, you're making that decision by yourself, or maybe you have a board of advisors or mentors or whatever. But it's on you,
It's
and
on
so
you.
you don't. So it
Mm-hmm.
can become very, very lonely and independent. So then having to work within a team, it's like, okay, this is how it works. But also, I don't want to be treated like that.
And
I don't want these
also,
things to happen.
yeah, and also I think being part of a team in that way and like really feeling what it feels like to be appreciated, I think that that's important too, right? Because when you're part of a team and you're working really hard for a
Mhm.
production or for a company or for someone else, like being appreciated is one thing, but also if you're not being appreciated, right? Like that can leave a really bad taste in your mouth. And that was something,
Totally.
being on the receiving side of that, I think that was a beautiful learning lesson because like I said, I learned how I do want to treat my people, but also how I never want to treat my people. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I imagine that obviously probably made you even a much better leader, right? An even more
Yes,
understanding, empathetic leader going forward.
for
Talking about
sure.
leadership, you have what I think you guys noted a female forward team.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Was that always your intention to establish a core of powerful professional females, or did it just kind of work out that way? And then I'm sure there's some benefits of it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely our team is female forward. We're an all female team right now. That hasn't always been the case. I mean, there definitely has been some men that have worked for me. Usually the gay variety just tends to flock this way.
Okay.
Um,
There
but
you go. You have the females, you have the fashion, you have the
yeah,
style, the
we've
design. I
got the
mean, it makes
gays, we've
sense.
got it all.
Yeah,
But I think having a female team, like it's something that I'm really proud of. And I know
totally.
that I found it actually very empowering. And this is an industry that tends to be, pretty female dominated in the interior
Hmm.
design world. But that said, I have had feedback from members on my team where they really enjoy working for someone like me because they feel like maybe they're heard in a different way or that their needs are catered to in a different way. And I think that that's really important. I think, women, we understand each other. And
Hmm.
it's a really beautiful thing, too, when you are all also moving in the same direction and accomplishing big things. Like, that's pretty cool. And, the stereotype of like, oh, I would never want to work for all women or get so catty or whatever. Like, I don't know. That's not been my experience. And I would never want it to be that way either. I think when you get the right group of girls together and you've got strong leadership, amazing things can happen.
I mean, I can attest to that because I've worked because of being in fashion and then even with Gray with interior design and I've been to those conferences. I mean, you come across just amazing individuals, but also just amazing women. I've never got that, and it's funny you say that because when I started doing image consulting, I had a girlfriend at the time. She worked at Nordstrom's, and so by this, I had no experience working with women whatsoever, right? And she's like, Brandon, this is what's going to happen. She's like, if you work with men and style them, it will be easy transaction, be very transactional. They would never refer you. They would take credit for everything you do, even if they look like trash prior. They're not going to say they work with you. She's like, on the contrary, if you work with women, they're going to be like amazing. They're going to be like they're going to want your opinion more, and they will tell all their girlfriends about you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So from that conversation, I started studying all the different fashion shows, all the different women's
Mm-hmm.
looks, and my clientele base was probably 80 to 70, 80% women. even though, obviously you guys dress better anyway. So where I was at, it made more sense, but it was probably 80% women.
I
So,
mean, isn't,
so
and haven't you found that to be the truth?
yeah, no,
Or
I
you're
mean,
like, yeah, your
it's been
experience?
amazing. My
Yeah.
experience with women has been amazing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was just, yeah, I never knew going into it that that was going to be the case.
Well,
But
and
working with women in all backgrounds, it's been an amazing experience.
yeah, and see, and that's something actually on that note, the difference between working with men and women, like a lot of the architects that we work with are men. A lot of our
Hmm.
clients in real estate, like a lot of our clients in development are men. A lot of the people that we come across on site, contractors, engineers, they're all men. So that's
Yeah.
an interesting dynamic too. And often when someone is in my team and they're being coached into more and more of a senior role, that is part of the learning and the coaching is how to deal with men because it's not always easy. And sometimes you can get really curt emails, or sometimes people can say something on site that could really hurt your feelings, or you could be offended by, or could really, but you have to take it all with a grain of salt and like let
Take
it,
it all in stride.
yeah, take it all in stride because it really doesn't mean anything. And that can be part of the coaching too with working with women.
Totally, absolutely. So your website, and you have your six values. And when I was doing, I love doing the research for these conversations. I was like, okay, I want to ask things that I haven't heard or haven't seen, but you have these values, right? And then knowing your blog, knowing your social media, you get really personal. How much of an impact is that, the elevation of your brand and how personal you are to be, especially in 2024, right? Because even though you started social media years ago, now it's like you have to share more of yourself. You're really seems like ahead of the curve when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think as a business owner, your values are everything. They are the pillar of how you operate. It's interesting that you say that, and you've been looking at our website because we're actually just about to embark on a new website rebrand. But more than that, also just a company vision refresh, I guess, if you will,
Okay.
and look at our values again. Because I think that the values are the things that you can stand behind, they are timeless and they
Hmm.
are your North Star. And so, no matter on around you, whether it's changes in trends, changes in team members, changes in clients, changes in industry and the economy, changes in social media, people were on Instagram a lot, now they're on TikTok, all of that doesn't matter. That is all noise if you have a good set of values and your values are something that you can return to. I also think your values are they're like the flame that the moth is attracted to, right?
Okay.
It's the thing that attracts your team and keeps your team engaged. And it's also the thing that filters out people that maybe aren't part of your culture or aren't, yeah, don't participate in your culture the same way. So your values will act as an automatic filter.
Totally. I mean, like what I talked about earlier, right? Being yourself and attracting who you want to your tribe and team, and also
Yeah.
eliminating maybe or differentiating yourself from people that you don't want to work with. You've been doing this for 16 plus years now, so you've established a system.
Yeah.
How often do you come back to those values? How often do you review them? And how have you been able to have the courage to stand so strongly in what you believe in? Because I'm sure that's a big part in how you have the trajectory that you're on.
Yeah, totally. Well, okay, I will say this, and I definitely mean it when I say it. There's probably not a day that doesn't go by that I don't think or reference my values at least once. So,
Okay.
for example, and I don't necessarily mean that outwardly, but
Yeah.
definitely inwardly. And so, our team, we have a rhythm at our company where every Monday morning we do a Monday morning meeting. Sometimes our values will come up. I like clarity is one of our values, and that's so important to me.
I know
Communication.
quality is one of them.
Quality is one of them. Yes, and quality is the thing. Actually, we were just talking about that this morning as a team. But yeah, it's we reference our values constantly, and I think that if we need to I reference it when someone represents our values or does something that's really great in alignment with our values, then that gets celebrated. And I also reference it when maybe there needs to be more coaching. Professionalism, that's actually one of our new values. That's not on
Okay.
our website right now, but
Okay.
professionalism is so, so important to me. And I love that as a value because I think sometimes people can take that for granted, right? That
Yeah.
you're working in an environment and or you're working with a company and professionalism can be overlooked. But like I said, I mean, we're in a service industry and I think no matter what, you always have to maintain a certain level of professionalism and that
Absolutely.
always gets you farther. Even if you're like chapped about something that an email that a client sent you or something that happened on site, like if you just maintain your professionalism, it always gets us farther. And so I think, yeah, we reference our values all the time, all the
And
time.
so that's what that reminds me of, and it's gonna. I don't know why that popped into my head, but it was like this story about Abe Lincoln, about some like letter he wrote during the war, and
Okay.
it was like it's like this terrible letter just talking about the general at the time. He didn't do what he said he was going to do, but instead of sending it out, his wife
Hmm.
tore, found. And I could be saying this wrong, but his wife found the letter and never reached the general, essentially, and so it saved him from himself. And so he was
Right.
able to not in the moment act emotional. She saved him in that
Yes.
space, and
Yes.
that turned into be the reason for the victory. So it's like that
Yes.
professionalism. Like, okay, yeah, in the
So
moment
important.
I might want to cuss you out, but let me bite my tongue for a few minutes,
Yes,
and then I'm going to be
sleep on
okay.
it, and then I'm going to come back to the table and address this professionally. Totally.
Exactly.
And you mentioned quality too. Like that is one of our like highest values, and I love quality. And actually, this happened not too long ago where we had a deadline, and the team rushed to get that deadline out the door, and I actually, what was sent out the door wasn't the highest quality that we could have put together.
It
And
wasn't up to
so
your standard.
yeah, it wasn't up to our standard. And so I, grouped the team together and said, okay, look, I know that this isn't up to our quality standard. It's not up to our quality standard. Like, right? People
Hmm.
admitted. And they were like, but
Yeah.
we had the deadline. And I said, you know what? I will always sacrifice a timeline to deliver quality. And I will always pick up the
Yes.
phone and tell a client, we had we were going to deliver something this Friday or at the end of the month, but we just need more time in order to deliver on quality. And I'll tell you what, the client will always appreciate that because no one wants us to hit a deadline
No.
and send something out the door that isn't 100%, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they're
No.
paying
Totally.
for.
Exactly. And to take ownership of that, right? Not only of the quality that you send out, but also just the integrity within that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, I know you recently got a Hunter's Best Candidate Award for a commercial product. You did Restaurants on the Edge, which is commercial, but you have so many amazing residential projects as well. Do
Yes.
you have a preference? Do you like the commercial hospitality side more than the residential side? Is it equal love?
Hey, you know what? They're so different, and I feel very blessed and lucky that we get to work in so many different industries. I
Mhm.
love the commercial work because you can be creative in a really interesting way. You get to do things that are super out of the box. Like we've got a new restaurant that we're working on in Vancouver. It's
Okay,
modern German. Ooh, it's
okay,
great. I
okay,
know.
okay.
So we get to do some fun stuff in the commercial world, but then I love residential because it's so personal, and then the budgets
Yeah,
are just usually very different than a commercial project.
yeah.
And I mean, it's just fun to have to use certain materials or certain lighting or buy certain furniture. It's really that's where I probably get my most satisfaction from. And
Okay,
it's not about spending the money. Again, it's like that quality. The quality that you
yes.
can do in a high end or luxury property is just like next level.
Okay, okay. So with that, you have, the YouTube
And
show.
I'm
You
just going
have
to play with my mic a little bit here while you keep talking. Is that okay?
no, that's
So
fine. That's
it's
fine. So you had, the YouTube channel. You had the TV show. You should be getting compensation for being a part of the curriculum now. So
right.
what is next? What is the next iconic project you have
Oh my
going
gosh.
on besides this German restaurant? What do you want to be doing going forward? Like, give us the lowdown, give us the exclusive for In the Design Lounge.
Okay, so what is new is the podcast. We
Okay.
talked about this a little bit the last time that I met with you. I actually didn't know that you had this running already when I talked about the podcast because you've been doing this is
Yeah.
like season 5, isn't it? You've been doing this for a
It
while.
is, but it's been ebbing and flowing. It started during COVID. So
Yeah.
so okay, so you know what? I have to tell this story. So I'm growing my brand, a personal brand, media. I did TV and everything, right? That
Yeah.
with locally in Portland. So the person I knew at Gray at the time, I'm like, you know what? You guys need an ambassador, if you will. You need a face for digital. You need to have someone that handles these conversations. I met with her. This is pre-COVID, right? I
Okay.
met with her, and she was like, Brandon, you know what? You're right. I'm actually about to move on and take another role. I'm like, oh, okay. So fast forward, COVID happens.
Hmm.
Prior to COVID, I signed an agreement with a luxury hotel group. No, you're good. I,
I'm
I got
listening.
disagreement with this
I have a
luxury
mic
hotel group.
situation, people.
You're right. This
If you're
is
listening
real.
to the audio version of this, that's all. I'm making.
We're just fixing the mic. This is real deal. But so I was with a hotel group and they gave me the penthouse to record a podcast.
Okay,
So I'm
nice.
moving over to this space. I'm 4 episodes in. I literally am having breakfast with a friend of mine who was the general manager of Ferrari at the time. I'm having him on as a guest. And he's like, man, what do you think with COVID? I'm like, man, I don't know. We're gonna do this conversation. We break bread, we talk, everything gets shut down, right? I'm like, crap, I'm 4 episodes in. What do I do? So I do what everyone else does. I go to Instagram Live, start having conversations. Lo and behold, Shawn, the CEO of Gray, didn't know I had this conversation with somebody else, by the way. They're bringing up how do we keep active during COVID. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that gentleman Brandon. He was at the first Gray Awards in this white tuxedo jacket, talking about dressing the part, speaking into existence. Right? She remembered me by my
I
outfit.
love
Right?
that. I love
And she
that.
was like, why don't we bring him on? They reached out to me, a person I've never met before reached out to me. I was like, hey, would you want to do this podcast interview for Gray? I'm like, I told this person years ago, this is what I'm going to do. And so that happened.
Yes, I thought
Ended up
it's like
being
putting it out there, right?
putting
Putting
it
it
out
out
there.
there. Yeah.
And it's like, having the ability and the faith and being fearless enough to put it out there. Because you talked
Mm-hmm.
about that earlier. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people after it happens, they're like, oh yeah, I knew he or she would have done that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's really telling when you have the faith before it happens to
Yeah.
speak it into existence, but then also act it into existence.
Yeah.
So that's how we got this podcast. So yeah, now I get to talk to people like you in season 5.
I know it's amazing. In season 5 already, that's crazy. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you're such a great conversationalist and such a great interviewer. And like, I would have never guessed that you were, what did you call yourself? A
Well, antisocial
antisocial,
extrovert. Extrovert.
antisocial extrovert.
Believe it or not, I stole that from Kendrick Lamar. That was a Kendrick Lamar lyric or
That's
something
so
on a song
funny.
years ago, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's me.
That's
That's me.
so funny. I see. I would have never guessed that about you. And yes. So the podcast I launched 4 episodes, I think about a year ago or so. And then I was like, yeah, record scratch, back this up. And I had to take a breather because I was like, but I don't want my podcast to be what I was doing on YouTube. So you know how sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when you can get into a rhythm with stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you can get a little stale. It doesn't feel fresh. It doesn't feel new. You're just kind of
Totally.
like, is it
Especially
just
when you have success.
especially when you have success. Yes. And I think some people can get afraid of like switching it up too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, hang on, back this up. I need to take a good look at this. Let's pause for a second here. I'd rather stop, rethink this, rebrand.
Okay.
So the podcast is now called Bonfire. And I
You
love
have the
that.
best name. It's Gaston. Technically, it's supposed to be Gaston, so it sounds a little bit better.
Gaston.
You have the best name ever for all fire,
Yeah.
bonfire. Like you
Yes.
got blessed.
Yes. So this is Bonfire, a series of fireside chats on business, spirituality, and life. And I am sprinkling in and mixing in the whole spirituality component because that has been
Love that.
something that has been, way bigger in my world and a journey. Like when you are on the path, you are literally on the path and you cannot get off when you find
No,
yourself on the path. My connection to source, universe, God, whatever you want to call it,
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
so important. Q, I think
Hmm.
they're going to be ready for August, and then we're
Okay.
going to keep rolling with it.
Well, I love that. I applaud you, not only the success, but the being fearless and having the courage to do these different things. I think people need to hear it, right? Because at the end of the day, the more you can lean inward, I feel like that is what everyone wants to see. That's what everyone gravitates towards. And that's when, you're walking in your purpose. And I think that's amazing. And that can be there's not a better way to be iconic than that. So
Yes.
thank you for that.
Amen.
All
Cheers to
right. Well,
that.
preach here. Yes. Cheers.
Yes.
Literally.
Cheers to that.
Thank you again. Another amazing conversation. I can't wait till the next time. When is the restaurant going to be completed? Do we have an ETA?
Oh, well, you know what? That it's probably going to be at least a year out. But Brandon,
Okay.
you are going to get an invite to that, and I really want to throw a big like House of Bond party and just all of our friends and suppliers and media and people like you. So, I mean, if you can find yourself in Vancouver around that time, but I'll keep you posted. It'd be so
I'll
fun.
find myself. I'll
Okay.
find myself in Vancouver as long as I visited it there a couple times. I want to visit it. Same thing with Toronto. I want to visit in the summertime. I want to be there when it's nice and warm and really, really just soak it in and really not
Yes.
have to work the whole time, really just take in the culture. But there's so many
Yes.
amazing, amazing restaurants. Being from the Northwest is so pretty. So I definitely have to come back. It's now, you said it. I'm looking for the invite. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm
Yeah.
looking for the invite.
Please do it.
I will do there.
I love it.
Carrie, thank you so much.
This
Pleasure
was so fun.
as always. And until next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brendan. So nice to see you. Love you
Well,
lots.
cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, yes.
Cheers.